I think from a human factors perspective, one would say that it's kind of busy and not necessarily user-friendly from an interface design. Here, this was our sample. We had 112 folks come in, mostly females, wide age range, people from 50 to 85 years. Two things I want to, ethnically mixed, of course, because we're in Miami. Two things I want to point out. Most people had above average health literacy. Okay? As TOEFL is a measure of health literacy. And a mean of 34 means above average health literacy. Our sample was highly educated. Practically everyone was beyond high school. And as I said earlier, they all had computer experience. We measured a lot of things. We actually logged where they went on the screen, how long they were on a page, where they went on the page, so their actual search behavior. We looked at, we had them write down their answers to the problems, okay? So then we coded the answers to look at accuracy, etc. Let me just give you just a snippet of the data, okay? In terms of actually not being able to do the problems, 19% of the folks gave up on at least one of the problems we gave them. 10% couldn't select the appropriate drug plan, and 10% just quit figuring out what their out-of-pocket expenses were. Okay, they just gave up. They said they couldn't do it. In terms of their performance, these are the folks who actually finished the problems. And in terms of issues to consider if they were eligible for Medicare, let's just look at that for a minute. The maximum score that you could get on this, according to accuracy, was 4. Okay. The average for our sample of well-educated computer-savvy adults was a 1.6. So people did not do very well on the very simple thing is whether or not they were eligible for Medicare home health aid. Okay, they also didn't do very well on the other problems, as you can see. We didn't give them assistance, okay? We had them, created a scene like they would use it when they were at home. In terms of other aspects related to Medicare Part D, could they navigate around the website? We measured navigational efficiency. Again, people did very poorly. They didn't follow, with respect to following the correct procedures, they did poorly. In interpreting the content, again, they did poorly. So percent overall correctness was only 41%. When we published the results, CMS was not very happy when the study came out in JAMA, but I think it proves the point very nicely that these health websites are not necessarily very easy to use. We have some very recent data. We just finished another study where we were looking at if we train folks to use the website, will it help? And we're just analyzing the data right now, and what we found is that training helps somewhat, but really, apropos to what I said earlier, the big difference in performance has to do with cognitive abilities. People who have higher cognitive abilities are able to use the website. Those with lower cognitive abilities, irrespective of training and irrespective of computer experience, do significantly less well, which suggests to me that the content is too complex. Here's some usability ratings in terms of becoming frustrated, finding it difficult to locate the information they needed, finding the website difficult to use. We had people rate the usability after they finished the study. Okay. Here's some other data that we gathered. We asked them what factors influence their, this is in general, not from the Medicare website, in general, because they looked at other websites. What factors influence their trust in health websites? They trusted if it was associated with a government agency, date of information would increase their trust. And the other one I think is very important They would trust the information if the website was well-designed and professional. Okay? Well-designed does not necessarily translate into credible. If you want to think back to when we looked at WebMD, which is a very credible website, that's a pretty difficult website to navigate. And if we were to look at it from a human factors usability standpoint, I'm not so sure it would hit the mark for well-designed. Whereas some other ones, like Ask Dr. Bob, might be very easy to use, but much less credible. So I think that's something we really need to think about. Most people, however, find the internet is a valuable tool for finding information. They would use it to find health information. And I want you to focus on that last bullet. We ask people if they would trust the information they find on the internet as much as the information they would get from their doctor. And surprisingly, 25% of the sample agreed and 31% were neutral. So only a small percentage of the sample disagreed with that statement, which is also scary given some of the information that is on the internet. Okay, some of the other studies that we're doing, we're looking at the role of knowledge and cognitive abilities. How does this affect someone's ability to use the web? Let me skip over that. Just show you a sample of the types of problems that people have to do. I want to show you one other study. We've also recently completed a study. It's my student Jessica, who's now doing the patient portal study, looking at the effects of the internet on older adult health information needs. And the question we were interested in here is, how useful do older adults perceive various information sources to be in terms of their health information needs? Do internet and non-internet users differ in terms of what sources of information do they need? And how does this influence their actual healthcare behavior? Okay, this was a relatively simple study. We did focus groups with 53 adults. Again, we had a wide age range. And one nice thing about being in Miami is we have very diverse populations who always like to participate in our studies. We recruited folks into two groups, a non-internet group. These are people who did not use the internet, and an internet group, people who did use the internet for getting health information. Just some of the results. We asked people why did they not use the internet, and I think this kind of parallels some of our earlier findings, or some of the earlier statements I made about meaningful access. People think it's too complicated. Okay, they won't be able to learn it. It's too expensive. They have other people do it, or they think that the information is not correct. Okay, it's not credible. These are sources, differences in sources of health information for people who use the internet and who didn't. Again, I think what's interesting here is people use a lot of sources of health for gathering health information. Okay? They don't just rely on one source. They look, certainly their doctor is prominent, also family, friends. We especially see this with our minority populations, newspapers, magazines. Okay? And there are some differences between our internet and our non-internet group. Folks that use the internet rely on family and friends, less more, about the same with their docs, and certainly less on newspapers and popular magazines because they're replaced by the internet. We asked them their feelings about having access to online health information, and most people were, again, quite positive. They thought it enabled them to better take care of themselves, communicate better with their doctor, make better decisions, etc. And Jessica's also looked at the other side of the equation. What do doctors think about this? Okay, so far I've been talking to you about what older adults and patients think about this. We were also interested in what do docs think, okay, when patients come in with internet information and have this access. Does it impact on their relationship with the patient? Ultimately, we're trying to facilitate patient-physician relationships. So we did a small study with